Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Coaching Corner with me, Jamila, aka the IEP Coach, where we talk about all things special education. Y'all know I love Tuesdays. I love talking about special education. So, as always, before we get started, share out this live with as many people as possible. And if you're tuning in, let me know where you are tuning in from. Drop it in the comments for me where you're tuning in from. And as I'm telling you to share it out, I am sharing out the live as well. I pray that everyone had a great day today. It's not as cold. And I went to the gym. I grabbed my coat. I should have grabbed a jacket or just a hoodie. Had this had this heavy coat on. I had to keep it unzippered. But I'm happy it's not as cold. It's not as cold. We're on our way to spring. We're on our way to spring. Tune in now. All right. Share that out. Let me make sure that everyone can hear me. I'm just checking all my platforms right now, making sure everyone can hear. All right, we're cool. We're good. We're good. We're good. So, again, welcome to the Coaching Corner. For those of you who are new, my name is Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. And I am the CEO and founder of the IEP Coach LLC. We are an education consulting company, and we specialize in providing special education centered support to our teachers and our paraprofessionals through our professional development and coaching services, because we feel when teachers have the support that they need, their instruction improves, as well as just their management of being a case manager and a SPED teacher improves, and they're more likely to stay in their role as a SPED teacher, because we have a lot of teachers leaving the field. And we also support parents with understanding the special education process, IEP, and 504 processes, because we feel when parents are equipped with the knowledge, they can confidently advocate for themselves as well as their children. So the child wins benefits on both sides by supporting our teachers and supporting our parents. And it takes the whole team to support our children so they can thrive. Okay. So that's just a little bit about us. All right. We got people tuning in from Georgia. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. Something happened with my camera and my mic. Okay, let me fix that. Let me fix. Okay, so let me change my camera. Whoa. Okay, can you hear me? I just want to make sure we can hear you. If you can hear me, just say yes. And I apologize for that. My camera had went out just for a quick second. My apologies. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into our topic for tonight. So, for tonight, I'm going to talk about compensatory services. Does anyone know what compensatory services are? If you do, let me know in the chat. Do you know what compensatory services are? Have you heard of the term? Do you know what it is? Compensatory services or compensatory education? Let me see. Do we have anyone? Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. So, does anyone know what compensatory services are or compensatory education? Have you heard of this term? Let me know. All right. I'm going to take it as perhaps you have not heard of it. Okay. So, compensatory, when you hear compensatory, it refers to payment. Okay. So, compensatory education, that is when a district or a school is making up for services that were not rendered during the school year for any reason. So let's say, for example, a student was supposed to get speech 2 times a week, let's say for 3 months. 2 times a week for 3 months, and they got it 1 time a week. They can get compensatory services for that time they did not receive their speech services. Okay, so compensatory, when you hear compensatory, it pertains to payment. Compensatory education, it's to make up for any educational services that a child missed or they were denied due to failure of providing that support from the school. Okay, walaikum assalam Hadiya, thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so that's compensatory services. Now we have, okay, hardly contained in Sped, often provided to students when there is proof the school team did not provide adequate services per the IEP. Thank you so much for that. So she's adding to like what I said. So compensatory services are often provided when a service has not been provided by the school team. Adequate services has not been provided by the school team. Now, someone may say, well, what if the kid doesn't have an IEP? There are cases where a school will have to pay compensatory services if there is a kid in the school who needed special education services and did not receive special education services. Okay, so like every year there's something called child fine. So with child fine, every district has to make sure all the students who currently has an IEP, their IEP gets done in a timely fashion. And then also that's the time where they are to evaluate any other students who may be in need of special education services. They are to be evaluated. So if there's somebody at the school, you know how you may have those kids who fall through the cracks. You're like, oh my God, they definitely dropped the ball on this kid. That kid could have received compensatory services because that was a kid who, had they been identified during child fine, they would have received special education services. And because they did not, they could receive special education, they could receive compensatory services because they weren't evaluated and given the special education services. Now, something else I get asked a lot is, well, how do you get that money? Well, what is it used for? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? And my apology, I'm going to go back and repeat. So I'm going to go back. So child fine occurs, I want to say, I remember in December, we always had to, by December 1st, we always had to make sure, thank you, we always had to make sure that we had everyone who was due before the new year came in was done. And we also had to make sure that we also evaluated any particular students who were in need of special education services. Like child fine is the time to get your child evaluated because we have to make sure we get every kid who may need to be evaluated. Because with compensatory education, let's say there's a kid in a school who perhaps was not evaluated during child fine and could have benefited from compensatory benefited from special education services. They could get compensatory education because the school failed to identify them during child fine and evaluate them to receive special education services. Okay, so because definitely kids who have IEPs and they're not getting their services, yes, they can get compensatory education for that. However, students who qualify for special education services but did not receive them or were denied them, they can get compensatory services as well. Okay? All right. Now, when it comes to getting your compensatory services, so let's say again, the parents, their child hasn't gotten all their services, they go to a hearing, and the judge awards them compensatory services. So it's not like the judge will cut a check and give it to those parents. It's not like, oh, here's $35,000, here, take it and use it how you want to. No, it is not used like that. It's not like they just get a check and they can spend it on whatever they want. So compensatory education, any payment that they receive, it is for educational purposes only. So they can use it on tutoring, academic programs, special education services, extended learning opportunities, counseling, and therapy. So it's things like that. Now, how they figure out how much compensatory um education is allotted. So first, what they do is, and the hearing officer decides um what the hourly, because they go by hourly rate. So let's say the judge say, oh, we're going to give you 400 hours of compensatory education. That hearing officer will then also decide what that hourly rate will be. Okay. So if the judge says, oh, we're going to give you 400 hours, and let's say the hourly rate is $80 an hour, that's $32,000. So that means the parent have access to $32,000 to get any educational support for their child. So that's tutoring, academic programs, special education services, counseling, therapy. That's what it's used for. So that's how they figure out how much the parent will get. They will award a certain number of hours, and then the hearing officer decides what the hourly rate will be, and then that's how they determine the price. So again, let's say, oh, we want to give you 700 hours of compensatory education. Oh, we're going to do $85 an hour. That's $59,500. So I know in Philadelphia, the school district of Philadelphia controls the any compensatory education the district has to pay out. If I'm correct, the parent has to provide. If it's not the parent, it's the actual provider invoice to the district, so that way it's proof. They have proof that this is an actual person providing this service, and they submit that to the school district, and then the school district pays the provider directly. Okay, so it's not like, oh, that money just goes in their hand. No, it's like think of it as like a trust or a fund of money that the family has access to, but they have to provide proof that, oh, this provider is going to give speech for my child because that's the provider that I chose. This is what their rate is. This is how much I know I have. They have to provide proof to the district, and then the district will pay the provider directly. So for example, let's say, hey, a parent reached out to me at the IEP Coach, reached out to us, and they wanted tutoring, or they wanted to get some academic support for their child, and they reached out to us. I would tell them what my rate is, and they would tell me how many hours they may want. My invoice would go to the school. They would send the paperwork to the school district. The school district would then pay me directly for the compensatory services that I'm providing for that kid, because they have to document the hours and deduct that from the fund. So that's how compensatory education, compensatory services work. Now, you may say, well, why do schools have to pay so much money out in compensatory services? A lot of times it's because they failed to provide a service to a student, or they didn't provide all of the service to the student, because there may not have been enough staff to provide that service. So therefore, again, it may be, oh, we need to provide this service a certain amount of times a week, but hey, we don't have enough staff. And the school is like, well, you know what? We can at least do one time a week. We can show that we did it one time a week. That's great, but that's not what's in the kids' IEP. You have to follow the kids' IEP. If they have a service, whether it's academic, whether it's social emotional, they're getting therapy, counseling, anything in school, whatever that IEP says, you're supposed to do it. So if they're supposed to get speech 2 times a week for 30 minutes, they're supposed to have speech 2 times a week for 30 minutes. If they're supposed to be in, let's say they're supposed to get small group, it may be 5 times a week. So that's 1 time a week for 45 minutes. They're supposed to get it 5 times a week for 45 minutes. You're supposed to follow that IEP exactly. And if you don't, then it's possible your school is going to have to pay compensatory services if that parent comes and if that parent finds out that you did not provide their child with the amount of service that is documented in their IEP. So parents, this is why it's very important that you have communication with your providers. You have with the providers that provide support for your children. Also with the teachers that provide support for your child as well, so that way you can keep up and know, like, oh, okay, making sure that your child is getting all the time that has been allotted to them and documented for them in their IEP, because that's where a lot of schools have to dish out money. And this is not just on top of and it's excuse me, it is due to not following an IEP, not providing a service. That's where a lot of schools have to pay that compensatory services. And a lot of times I'm like, why don't you hire consultants to come in and provide the services for your teachers, so that way they have the skills and the know-how, so that way these mistakes don't happen, or so that way you don't make these you don't have these mishaps occurring. Just think, the money you're putting so much out in compensatory services. How about you invest that money in your teachers to provide professional development for them, coaching for them, so they know how to implement IEPs properly. They know how to properly handle their caseloads, that they know how to properly progress monitor and things of that nature, so that way you don't have these mishaps. So they know what to do when it's child find time. And you don't have these kids falling through the cracks. Hire us at the IEP Coach to come in and provide your professional development and your coach. And I know a lot of you may say, well, we have our assistant principals to do all that. Your assistant principals don't have the time to do all of that, because they already have to observe the teachers in the school. And if special education is not their background, that's like the blind leading the blind. Like that doesn't make it make sense. Make it make sense. Why not hire professionals like us at the IEP Coach to come in and support? So then that way that AP assistant principal has the time to do their other duties that they need to do. Because let's be honest, you're trying to do so much with so little staff. And this is why this is why you're in the court, this is why you're in litigation a lot, this is why you're having to put out so much in compensatory education and pay out in compensatory services. Okay, so that's all I wanted to talk with you guys about tonight. I apologize for the mishap. I'm gonna make sure we're straight next time. Those of you who have been reaching out about strategy calls, here is the link. I am putting it in the comments right now. Book your strategy call with us. We are only taking 10. We only have spots for 10, and I feel like we have 8 now, because they are starting to fill up. Like, definitely, that's 60 minutes. You have any questions? You got anything you want to talk about? Oh, thank you so much. Hardly Contained and Sped said, I'm currently a district specialist, and I love that you are speaking to the fact that lack of staff does not mean teams can stop providing services. Absolutely. Just because again, you may not have the staff. You may be like, listen, we're short. You still provide what you're capable and what you have the capacity to provide. You don't just not provide a service. And thank you so much for that Heartily contained in Sped. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so definitely that is the link to book a strategy call with us. Also, guys, thank you all for tuning in to our when I had what was it, mentor teacher Lee and I, we did our presentation on um being more inclusive this Ramadan. We've been taking calls. Listen, you have until the 29th to book a call with us and you get a free Ramadan resource kit from us. We were meeting with some schools today, so definitely I'm sharing the link again in the comments. So share that link out if you know of any schools, any businesses, any organizations that will be in need of our support to help them be inclusive during this during the month of Ramadan that is coming next month. Definitely share our link. You can share the post that we have. So definitely share out the information. I'm sharing it here on Instagram as well. And as always, I always have freebies for you guys. So I have things for teachers helping you write a checklist for writing your IEPs. I have when you're writing your progress reports, how to write perfect progress reports for parents, what you need to do to prepare for your IEP meetings. I have that for you. And also for my educational leaders, I have a quick survey for you to share your needs with us, because I know you're so busy, you don't have time to do, you may not have time to jump on a call, but you can complete a survey. So we have that for you as well. If you have any topics that you would love for us to cover when we go live, definitely DM us. You can DM us what you would love for us to talk about. If you're thinking about something right now, you can drop it in the comments before we head on out. You can definitely do that. But yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for engaging with our content. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. So again, I know you may be typing, so I'm going to give you time. If you have any questions right now, feel free to ask a question. If it's something like more thorough, I want to say not thorough, more is deep and is more personable, I suggest you book a strategy call with us at the IEP Coach. I put the link in the comments already. If you have any questions, let me know. Let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to give you a moment because I know you are, because I know you're typing. So I'm going to give you a minute to type. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Do you have any questions? Let me check Instagram as well. Okay, I don't see any questions on Instagram. Let me come back. Okay, I don't see any questions. All right, cool. So as always, guys, make sure, again, share out the live, share out the links that we shared for the strategy calls with the IEP coach. Also for the culturally responsive support during Ramadan. Share that out with any business, organization, or school that is in need of our support. And we have our freebies, so we just shared that in the comment section. So be kind to yourself, guys. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace and be safe. And I will see you all next Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for tuning in.